73 days, but who's counting? We're home.
It is just really neat to see everybody come back and march for an awesome cause.
So I was admitted to the hospital a week. It ended up being a week before he was born, with high blood pressure, and my protein was very high. And so I went in for my regular 26-week appointment, and Dr. Reinhardt said, "You're going straight to labor and delivery. We want to monitor you." I spent a week in labor and delivery. At one point, it was 220 over 186. That was like the Thursday before he was born. It seemed to stabilize a little bit, and by Sunday I was developing chest pains.
The first time I met Matt, and what we do is we have, if families know they're probably going to come into the NICU, what we do is we tour them around so they kind of get an idea of the equipment, kind of actually realize it's not that bad of a place to be. It makes it more tangible and something easier to deal with instead of just what you can kind of think about in your mind.
But basically told the nurses to prepare me for delivery. Called Matt, and by 8:40 that morning he was born. I did not get to see him right away. Heard him cry as they whisked him off to the NICU. We were lucky enough that during the stay, Matt was able to tour the NICU with Amy Harris, who ended up being our primary nurse. And that was great because he sort of had the feeling of, okay, this is what my baby might look like. This is the environment he's going to come in, all of the buzzers and bells and whistles and what the incubator looks like, and sort of the routine that you go through each time that you go in and out of the NICU.
It's a different process because they had a baby early unexpectedly. They're in a unit where there's lots of machines, there's lots of different noises. A lot of times the babies are on a lot of equipment and it's very overwhelming. They've sort of lost what they might have interpreted as a regular birth.
Dr. MacDad and Amy were right there when he was born and took him right over to the NICU. Matt went with them. I stayed there until Tuesday night at about 6 o'clock. And they finally decided that my blood pressure had stabilized enough that I could be put in a wheelchair and taken over to the NICU to see him. And that was really, really hard. It was like walking into, I was just numb. The nurses were absolutely wonderful and just sort of let me be and, explained everything that they needed to. As I just kind of looked at this child who seemed totally lifeless, but, that I hadn't seen for so long, they had wanted a name for him and everything, so it was really, really hard, but they were so supportive and regularly visited me in labor and delivery to say, here's what's happened, here's what we're doing, we've set up a webcam for you, we're trying to get you internet service so you can see it from your bed here in labor and delivery. And then I stayed in the mother and infant unit.
And what we do is we follow them from the very beginning, when he was teeny tiny, all the way through discharge, and that way we get to know and establish really great relationships. I knew Wyatt. I knew if he was not feeling well that day, or if this color changed, or if he was happy, or what made him happy, or how he liked to be held, or how he liked to be positioned. So primary nursing is obviously very important.
You just develop this bond with the nurses who see him regularly, everything from, writing on the back of his diaper that we could see on the webcam to posting pictures of our two older children, Jillian and Owen, in his incubator, and they were fantastic. And anytime, they called, the first thing they said when they'd call the house was, everything's okay, we just wanted to tell you that, he made 4 pounds, or whatever the good news was. And then we would also get we've had a little setback and we think he's going to be okay, but here's what we're going to do. It's very much a roller coaster ride, and they were fabulous about it.
Throughout the baby's journey, we're taking care of the baby, but we're also taking care of the family, and they're entrusting their child with us. It's quite terrifying, and most of the time the parents will sit by the phone, and every time the phone rings will jump because they're expecting to get a phone call from us. I think they were sad, but always kept Wyatt's best interest in mind, and understood when there were things, whether it was procedures that we needed to get done, whether there were times that, we needed them to step out of the unit for whatever reason. They were always very understanding. And it was a partnership. It's a partnership between the nurses, the doctors, and the family. We're all part of a team.
Some days we would leave the NICU just for lunch and wonder if when we got back if he would be alive. I remember one day we had a situation. I was holding Wyatt and he started to desat, and Amy and Sherry were in there trying to figure out what the problem was, and they took him from me and said, "Why don't you guys step out for a minute? Let's try to get him back to to where he needed to be." And I did, and when I came back, they said he had extubated himself, and you guys were so calm. And I remember saying to Sherry, well, would it have been a good thing if I had panicked? You guys weren't panicking, why should I?
He was very adorable, very fun to work with, very sweet. Some of the things we do for moms to build that trust and to make them comfort and increase bonding would be the kangaroo care. As soon as they can after the first week. Intubated, not intubated, doesn't really matter. We get them on mom's chest. But that's a place where they can truly bond, truly connect. And then the swaddle bath, I know they loved, and that's something we do here. We're in a tub of toasty water. They're wrapped in a blanket and set into the tub very slowly. It's like stepping into a hot tub. You can just feel them relax. You slip them in and they relax, and you just take an arm out and do it, take an arm back in and do it. And then we do the march and dimes every year, and I tell you, those are things you don't want to miss. Those are the things when you realize what you do is so important.
I'm born to be present. I'm Wyatt Smith. I approve this message.